Are one-star reviews for Hollow Knight Silksong coming from players who can't keep up? Or do they expose legitimate cracks in this long-awaited indie follow-up? Hollow Knight Silksong dropped on September 4th, 2025, and it's already a Game of the Year contender. It's boasting a 92 out of 100 on OpenCritic and 8.5 out of 10 on Metacritic. But simmering underneath the overwhelming praise, one-star reviews are bubbling up, tearing into the game with seemingly legitimate reasons. Whether you're a fan ready to defend Silksong or a skeptic that agrees with the complaints, we're diving into one-star ratings to see if they're legit. We'll then share our honest opinion on whether this sequel is a 1-star rating, a 5-star rating, or somewhere in between. Let's get started with the complaints.
There is almost 0 checkpoints. I was restarted 20 minutes because I fell onto thorns. This game makes Dark Souls 2 look godly. Everything doing double damage is proof they can't make the sequel harder, naturally. Bosses don't drop anything. Talk about a letdown. You spend 20 minutes smashing your face against an overpowered boss, and then you finally kill them. You get nothing for your efforts? Not even shell fragments? What were they thinking? Some of us people just want to enjoy this, not play an extremely hard game.
So there are some things we need to unpack from these complaints. Specifically, we'll look at sparse checkpoints, or benches as they're called in the game, make for long treks after each death. Does this drag out your progress and test your patience? Unbalanced enemy damage. Enemies deal more damage than expected early on. Does this make fights feel unfairly punishing? Unrewarding boss fights. Boss battles demand intense effort, but offer little reward. Does this leave your hard-fought victories feeling empty? And finally, overall high difficulty. The game's steep challenge caters to hardcore players. Does this mean that the game sidelines those seeking a more accessible adventure? Now, before we start, I'd like to ask you to hit that like button and consider subscribing. We're a small channel, but we post at least weekly and are coming out with a wide range of gaming-related content, both new games and retro. Okay, let's get into the first one-star complaint, that the checkpoints are few and far between. In full disclosure, I've never played the first Hollow Knight game, so I have nothing to compare this game to. But considering the hype and the fact that this game is on Game Pass, there will be a ton of players that are in the same situation as me. I learned that the checkpoints look like benches, so they're resting points. If and when you die, you revert back to this bench. It's pretty straightforward. But yes, I did notice that the benches were spread out a bit longer than I would prefer. Additionally, unless I was specifically looking for a bench, I realized that I walked past at least one, causing me to revert back to the checkpoint way back before I ever noticed that I was walking right past it. So as for the checkpoints being too lean, I tend to agree with this complaint. Next up are complaints about unbalanced enemy damage. This is a tricky one. When the question pops up, I think back to my days of playing similar Metroidvania games. I mean, listen, I like Metroid, I like Castlevania, I like Ori. I'm not against games that are challenging, but when it comes to Hollow Knight Silksong, the enemy damage is simply too strong, at least right out of the gate. There's just something off about it. It doesn't seem like the enemies should be as powerful as they are. It just feels cheap. So yet again, I think our one-star reviewers have a valid complaint. Next on our complaint list is the mention that boss fights do not provide any type of reward drop that makes it worth the painstaking task of defeating the boss. I will say that in many cases, the bosses are pretty difficult in this game, and you will likely have to fight them many times over before you get it right. And of course, if you look at Metroidvania games that are considered classic, you will see that the reward system in those games is highly satisfying right from the start. That's what keeps most players going. That's why they slog through replaying the same checkpoints, replaying the same bosses, because these players are anticipating some sort of reward after claiming victory. And sadly, this is not the case in many situations throughout this game. So again, I'm going to have to agree with our one-star reviewers that pointed this out. Finally, we have an overall general complaint that the game is just too hard. For me, I couldn't agree more. Listen, I get that all these gamers are different, and many love these high difficulty games. But I think that the majority of gamers are like me and will have little patience when the game is overwhelmingly hard. If I don't feel like I'm making progress or picking up on the game mechanics within the first hour of playing, I'm moving on to a different game. This isn't the 1980s or 90s anymore where kids had to become experts at challenging games because that's literally the only game they had to play. We live in a new era today, especially with services like Xbox Game Pass, where if I get frustrated too quickly and too often, then I'm out and I'm looking for one of the other 400 plus games in my library to play. All of that said, and the fact that I'm agreeing with all of our 1-star reviewers' complaints, that doesn't mean I would give this game a 1-star. Not even close. I just don't think the game is for me. Now, if there was an easy mode that gave you more checkpoints and significantly lowered the enemy's strength, I might consider playing it just to get into the story. But as it stands now, I'll likely never play Hollow Knight Silksong again. As for a score from 1 to 5 stars, I'd probably rate it a 3.
What?
It's a beautiful looking Metroidvania game, but I'd have to pour far more hours into the game than I'm willing to provide just to get good.
That's all for now, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time in another video.